So I decided to upgrade to the CM3 throttle from Virpil. I thought I would do a quick video to just show some of the more minor differences. Obviously the detents are the main difference, but just thought I would do a video showing the other stuff as well. So most of the differences are cosmetic. Basically the overall design is pretty much the same. The new, it's kind of hard to get it into perspective in the video, but the new throttle has significantly taller arms, sticks up farther, has a little farther throw. A few other things that are somewhat cosmetic, somewhat functional. This one's mainly cosmetic, but this dial at the end looks differently. It's got a little direction indicator now versus just the blank one before. Not sure what good that would actually do, but there it is. The flap lever on the old one is just smooth. On the new one, it's got this textured surface, which is kind of nice. Makes it a little more grippy. The hat switches on the old one have a little bit more of a dull click to them. The new ones have a little bit more of a positive, clicky feel. How that's actually going to work in practice, I don't know. But I suspect that the switches on the new one might work better. This button on the bottom is now red, purely cosmetic as far as I can tell. This button here now sticks out a little farther than it did on the old one. Let's see what else. These little red switches, basically identical. These buttons, basically identical. These ones maybe have just a very slightly different sound, but for all intents and purposes are the same. These switches I feel like on the CM3 are maybe a little better. They've got just a little bit more of a positive, defined click to them. One thing that I actually thought was a little bit of a downgrade was the encoders. These ones they feel about the same. The action is about the same on them, but these ones have this nice, big, chunky dial. These ones are a little smaller, look a little cheaper. I would say that's really probably the only thing I would call a downgrade on this, but I've heard other people say that they like these better, so who knows. This I think is an upgrade on the new one. On the mode dial on the old one, you can hear there's a little bit of, it's just not very smooth. You can hear almost like a grinding almost. The new one has a very, very nice positive click to it. These switches, the old one has just a little bit of stickiness to it. The new one has nice damping and just feels a little smoother. The linkage on the old one is, you have to use quite a bit of force. You got to put it all the way over there, bring it down, you know, whatever, but it works. But I feel like it's hard to demonstrate in the video, but I feel like there's quite a bit of play on the old one, or at least on my unit. This one, the new one, this mechanism is much nicer. It just slides back and forth like that. And there's like a magnet or something that, or maybe a spring that helps it return home. And it's not a huge difference, but I feel like the new one is bound together a little nicer. And then of course the detents are the main thing. My old CM2 throttle has a 3D printed detent system. It just has center detents for space sims for finding zero throttle. It works. Works all right. It was a lot of work to make to get all the parts to fit together, and I found a design, somebody else, I'm forgetting the name, had done a very nice design, but it did take some modification to get it to work for my individual throttle. And has a tendency to drift over time, so it's just not really an ideal solution. These are much nicer. Comes with, there's this rail here, so you see it has these two screw holes, and it's a modular system, so you can put all kinds of different detents in there. It comes with these aerobatic detents installed. Basically, those just allow you to place wherever you want a small, shallow push-through detent. So, for example, you would put that on there like, oops. Put that on like so, then you would screw it down. There's the, what do they call this one? The Cm2 detent has the halfway point detent, so basically the same thing I'm doing with that one. I'll put that on there in a minute. Power cord, of course, or the USB cord, of course. Let's see, so that was the Cm2. You've also got the classic detents, so these go on there for like an afterburner or a idle throttle cutoff, something like that. Classic Plus, basically the same thing, except it has a little notch there so that you can feel when you're about ready to come off it. And I feel like there was another one. Yeah. So there's warthog type detents here, which I assume is for the cutoff on an A10, but I'm not all that into military sims, so I'm not sure. So I'll put a couple of these on. So the process of putting them on is pretty easy. Just pick the one you want, put it on there. Find your Allen wrench. There it is. And screw it on. I'm just going to do the one screw for now, but obviously if you're using it long term, you do both. And so it just goes like that. So it's not quite as solid of a detent as the 3D printed one I use, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. The 3D printed one, it can be kind of difficult to make very fine little adjustments from zero. So this one is just a little bit easier to make those fine adjustments, so it's actually quite nice. It does take a little bit more effort to stop at zero though, so it's, I guess opinions could go either way on that. But it's certainly a lot more solid than my 3D printed one. So I'll put on one that uses the finger lifts. So I think with practice, putting those on would be much faster and easier. So anyways, that is, let's see if we can get a better angle. This is the classic Plus. So it's got a hard stop there. Before going into afterburner, pick up the finger lifts, you can get over it. And then, so it gives you this nice little warning before you come out of afterburner. It falls back down, you're out of afterburner. finger lifts have a very nice heavy duty feel to them. And back here is one of the Warthog. Oops. The Warthog stops. So it comes to a hard stop, lift it, it goes over, and then the throttle's off. You can't push it forward. So you lift it back up. Oops, shoot the table. Oops, decoupled it. Overall, very nice. The finger lifts are made out of a metal material. The actual finger lift parts might not be, but this is. These are made out of some sort of heavy duty plastic, the finger parts. These are made out of a lightweight but very, very firm, solid plastic. I think they'll last very well. I think that it should also be pretty easy to design custom 3D print, custom 3D printed ones. Specifically, I would like to do a shorter Cosmosim that doesn't come towards the front as much, so that you could just put that on there and then still use one of the aerobatic ones in front. So for something like Elite Dangerous, you could know where your 75% throttle mark is. You would just put something like that up front. But I think that this actually leaves a lot of room for people to experiment and come up with interesting detents, because you don't have to deal with making this whole conglomeration of stuff. You only have to just print one little part. So anyway, I haven't actually used it yet, but it seems pretty nice. If prices on eBay weren't so ridiculous right now, I'm not sure it would be worth the upgrade. It's pretty similar, although the new detents are very, very nice, and some of the other little things are nice too. But right now, there's no reason not to, because the CM2s are selling on eBay for pretty great prices. Oh, one more thing I wanted to mention. One thing I was concerned about with this is if you are playing different games, like switching between Elite Dangerous and DCS or something like that, how it would work for switching setups. It is a little, it's a little bit of work, and it makes me curious what VKB's throttle with the electronic detents that they keep talking about is going to be like. But I think it's pretty doable, and the easy way to do it, if you were switching back and forth a lot, would be to just take a little piece of tape or make a little mark or something where each of them go, and it would actually be pretty easy to swap back and forth. If you did that, you wouldn't have to worry about getting them in exactly the right place or anything, because you would already have it marked. So overall, I think it'd be pretty easy. I may have looked a little clumsy putting them on, but I think with practice, they'll probably come on and off real quick. And if you have markers, it'd be pretty easy to switch back and forth.